All right, hello, hello. We are moving on. Genesis 46. So this is Jacob goes to Egypt. Jacob realizes his son, his favorite son, the one that he thought was dead, is alive. Not only is he alive, he realizes he's been kept alive by God in order to save Jacob's line, just like God said he would always look after and take care of Jacob's line. There's a famine in the land. I'm sure that Jacob was kind of, questioning a little bit, like, what's going on? I mean, I know God has a plan, but this famine, this is hitting us hard. How are we going to survive? How are we going to get through? Sends his sons, the ones that are left to him, to Egypt, and eventually comes to find out that Joseph is governor, is ruler, right underneath Pharaoh of Egypt. And he's ecstatic. He's an old man now, but he decides he's going to go to Egypt. Joseph has invited them in for the duration of the famine, at least, to live in the land of Goshen. This was the pasture land, basically. This is where they lived together most of the time. I mean, not live together. This is where the herdsmen, the shepherds, the people who kept livestock usually lived. In the Bible, you'll see stuff like the Egyptians thinking it's an abomination to live with shepherds and things like this, or with Israelites or with the Hebrews. Well, you got to remember a few things. First of all, when Abraham didn't tell Pharaoh that his wife Sarah was his wife instead it was his sister, God brought some plagues, some pretty powerful plagues down on the Egyptians. And they remember this. So they already, they know that they have this Hebrew line has a powerful God, but also they don't really like the Hebrew line because of the sort of the ways that things have gone in the past. So that also being said, the fact that, every culture kind of had this going, there was a bit of elitism to their society. You see this in Romans, a Roman citizen versus a non-Roman citizen. The Egyptians are the same way. And then also it has to do with cleanliness. So if you're working with animals all day and, you're raising livestock, you're not very clean. So they're putting them in the land of Goshen. It's underneath Egyptian rule, but it's a more fruitful area, and it's outside of where like most Egyptians live because they don't usually do shepherd work. All right, 46. And Israel, that's Jacob, took his journey with all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices unto the God of his father Isaac. And God spake unto Israel in the visions of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Here am I. And he said, I am God, the God of thy father. Fear not to go down into Egypt, for I will there make of thee a great nation. I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again. And Joseph shall put his hand upon thine eyes. And Jacob rose up from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, and their little ones, and their wives, in wagons which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. And they took their cattle and their goods, which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt, Jacob and all his seed with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his daughters, and his sons' daughters, and all his seed brought he with him into Egypt. All right, so a vision of night. First of all, I looked into this and looked into this and looked into this, and here's my opinion. Vision of the night and dream are separate words, so they clearly have a separate meaning. They use dreams, there were words for dreams, and then there's words for vision of the night. But we also see that God speaks to people in the Bible through dreams. So I tend to think that there's a difference. I don't know what that difference necessarily is. It's not important whatsoever. Vision of the night, just think of it as a dream. It's not going to be any different. But I tend to think it was something more powerful than just a vision. Like Jacob had wrestled with God. Jacob had seen the ladders of angels coming up and down from heaven. So Jacob's kind of had this connection with the supernatural with God. And I tend to think that the visions of the night, because they are separate words, it does mean something different. But again, it's irrelevant. Just think of it as a very powerful dream. That's the best way to describe it, I guess. And he says, For I will make thee a great nation in Egypt. So remember, The next chapter, or not chapter, the next book of the Bible, Exodus, is the story of Moses, the Egyptians coming out of Egypt. It was in Egypt that he makes them a great nation. This can sound bad, I guess, but it's through difficult times that is what makes you a better person. You know, there's an old saying where a man's not a man until he's getting hit in the face. You know, and think about it, like steel has to be beaten. You have to work hard. You have to go through adversity. You have to get something. You have to go through some downtime in order to make yourself a better person, in order to grow as a human being, in order to grow as a people. And this happens to them in Egypt. And this was part of God's plan. They had to go through what they go through in Egypt to make them who they are. And they get a lot from Egypt. They get a lot of knowledge. They get a lot of training in all kinds of different ways of how to build a nation, and all, because the Egyptians have a powerful nation. And they also get quite wealthy because the Hebrew line is quite good at finances. And we'll see in the end, Exodus part's kind of ignored, but it's in the Charlton Heston movie. They take a lot of riches with them after the plagues in Egypt. But think about it, they're learning, they're being trained, they're learning more about being a nation as a whole instead of just nomadic tribes. And it says it right here, where he will make them go to Egypt, and do not fear, I will make you a great nation. In Egypt, that's where I'm going to make you into a great nation. You know, instead of wallowing over this, which happens in Jewish culture throughout the Old Testament, they kind of look back and wallow over it. They're not supposed to. They're supposed to see this as the time that made them who they are. It's all part of God's divine plan. And then it says, I will go down with thee into Egypt, and I will also surely bring thee up again. So know that you're coming back out. And Joseph shall put his hand upon thine eyes. And Jacob rose up, blah, 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 carry it. So they carry everything they get out of there. Remember, in the land of Canaan, they got quite wealthy again, because that's kind of what they do. They're shrewd business and wheelers and dealers. And usually it's just, you know, having healthy crops. Like, they're just nomadic farmers who shepherd their flocks and make wise decisions and grow their flocks, because it's not really necessarily money that gives you wealth. It's like useful things and, you know, metals and things like that. So animals, domestic animals, having a bunch of them is a bunch of wealth. All right, verse 8. And these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, Hanok, and Phalu, and Hezron, and Carmi. And the sons of Simeon, Jemuel, and Jamin, and Ohad, and Jachin, and Zohar. Let's see what Zohar means. Just curious here real quick. Oh, it's just another translation. So it gives you like the Hebrew and the Greek is what it's doing. And Shaul, the son of Canaan. Okay, how do I say this? Canaanitish woman. Of a Canaanitish woman. That's how you say it? I thought it would be a Canaanite. A Canaanitish woman. See, it was Canaanitish. She wasn't a Canaanite, she was Canaanitish. That sounds funny. Alright, so clearly there's something to that. They don't like mixing with the Canaanite line. Remember, we've talked about this, whether you believe it's strictly because of the bloodlines. I tend to believe it's because of more of the culture, and the woman raises the child, and then she imprints her culture onto them. Or it's both, but know that this is always going to be mentioned. Anytime they marry someone of this other line, they always mention it, because they're all about tracking this stuff, you know, showing... Either, again, a lot of people just think it's bloodline stuff, and I've had videos on the bloodlines, and you can have your own opinion on the bloodlines. Clearly, it's important for a reason. I don't necessarily focus on the bloodline aspect of it, but just know that they're going to always mention that stuff. Alright, and the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And the sons of Judah, and Onan, and Shelah, and Pharez, and Zara. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. So it's funny to me they mention, because they're just talking about going to Egypt and who goes with them. But then they also go through the entire genealogy, because they're so into genealogies. And there's importance to it. It wouldn't be in the Bible if there wasn't. Again, I tend to think it's because of the cultural divide that happens in a family when you have a mother who believes in one set of virtues and a father who believes in another set of virtues, and the woman raises the child, and it causes conflicting things within the child's head. But anyway, the sons of Judah, yeah, and Onan are already dead, but they still mention them, even though they don't go to Egypt. And the sons of Pharez were Hezron and Hamuel, and the sons of Issachar, Tola and Phuva, and Job and Shimron. And the sons of Zebulun, Sarad, and Elon, and Jahleel. These be the sons of Leah, which she bare unto Jacob in Paddan Aram, with his daughter Dinah. All the souls of his sons and daughters were 30 and 3. Dang, 30 and 3 just from Leah. And the sons of Gad, Ziphion, and Haggai, and Shuni, and Ezbon, Uri, and Arodi, and Areli. And the sons of Asher, Jimnah, and Ishu, and Isiu, and Beriah, and Sarah, their sister. And the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malkiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter. And these she bare unto Jacob, even 16 souls, the sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, Joseph and Benjamin. And unto Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, which Aseneth, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. And the sons of Benjamin were Bela and Becher and Ashbel and Gura and Naaman and Ehi and Rosh and Mupin and Hupim and Ard. These are the sons of Rachel, which were born to Jacob. All the souls were 14. Alright, let's get through this and then I'll stop. And the sons of Dan, Hushim, and the sons of Naphtali, Jaziel, and Guni, and Jezer, and Shalem. These are the sons of Bilhah, which Laban gave unto Rachel his daughter, and she bare unto these unto Jacob. All the souls were 7. All the souls that came with Jacob into Egypt, which came out of the loins beside Jacob's sons' wives, all the souls were 66. And the sons of Jacob, which were born him in Egypt, were 2 souls. All the souls of the house of Jacob, which came into Egypt, 70. Alright, so there's a whole bunch of genealogy there. I told you genealogy is a big thing in the Bible. I hated it for almost every time I read the Bible, basically up until now. You know, obviously I've been doing much more studying with non-canonical books a lot lately, or within the last few years, I mean. And a bunch of different people and their theories on different aspects of the Bible, a bunch of stuff written by other cultures throughout history to see what things kind of clash and go back and forth with Scripture. And it's very interesting and everything. The genealogies are important. I can't necessarily tell you why. And I know that sounds silly, but they wouldn't be here if it wasn't. Now, you will find, again, so many people who it's all like these bloodlines and the seed of the serpent, the seed of the woman, or the Nephilim seed and all this stuff. And trust me, I'm totally into listening up on that stuff and reading up on that stuff. And I think they're great. Good book reference would be Gary Wayne's Genesis 6 Conspiracy. That's a great book of basically just research. You know, obviously he has his opinion, but it's just a ton of research of all this stuff. But again, I don't buy into that completely. I do think, obviously, pre-flood, I believe that there was some Nephilim stuff going on. We talked about that in my early Genesis book or videos. Afterwards, some people believe in some Nephilim bloodlines surviving. Some believe in like a reincursion. I don't know. Whatever. The Bible does mention that there are some people of this like Rephaim or Nephilim bloodline. Obviously, there's giants that David fights, and like even in America and the mounds and stuff, they've always found giant bones and stuff like that. But again, the whole bloodline thing to me isn't nearly as relevant. You know, the separating the wheats and the tares because everything's been mixed. Christ coming to save the Gentiles, not just the Jewish bloodline. The fact that Abraham was constantly, and Isaac and everyone before him, they're trying to convert people into their religion. The bloodlines are important. Maybe there's some of these bloodlines that have this other seed to them. But I think it's gotten to the point, everyone has gotten to this point where anyone has the ability to be saved. Doesn't matter your bloodline. The reason why it's talked about so much in the Bible, and again, I'll say this until a revelation comes from me, or I can read the opposite thing in the Bible, that it's a cultural thing. It's the mother or because it's always women, obviously, because it's the male line they follow and who they marry. If the mother is of another bloodline, specifically the Canaanite bloodlines, they have such an opposite view, because you read about the Canaanite bloodlines, they actually do almost have the same understanding of history as the Hebrews, but it's from the other perspective. That their gods are the fallen angels that are talked about in Genesis 6, and the Most High God is not a good God to everyone else. The Most High God, the Hebrew God, it's kind of like the whole Prometheus brings fire, but then he's punished for giving knowledge to man. That's how they view it. Like, their gods tried to help us, and God punished them for trying to help us. And there's more to it, obviously, and it changed over history, but these Canaanites, this is the way they view it. So it's not just a different culture, it's the opposite culture. So we can tell that the bloodlines aren't necessarily important either, because Joseph's two sons are born specifically, in the land of Egypt. Were born Manasseh and Ephraim, with which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On, bare unto him. So she's the daughter of a high priest of a different god. And God's a jealous God. It's all in the Bible. He does not like other gods being worshipped. So if she's the daughter of this other priest, you don't think that maybe there'd be something to that, and they mention it. But yet Joseph's sons still get the blessing. Whoa, what about their bloodline, though? They don't have the right bloodline, do they? Because this is an Egyptian woman who's the daughter of a priest of a false god, right? Right? So what's up with this? Maybe her bloodline somehow could be tracked back to, Japheth or somebody, or son of Noah. But I tend not to think so. They still mention that this is not a Hebrew, not a woman of their bloodline, but his sons still get blessed, and they're still fine, because Joseph and his wife had the same values and virtues. I don't know if she ever really converted, who knows, but Joseph was able to live amongst the Egyptians and kind of adopt their society and live amongst them and get along with them, just like Daniel does later on under King Nebuchadnezzar and everything. But he never gives up his moral and virtues and values and belief in God. He never gives that up. So I think either his wife came to follow his way of thinking, or at least respected him so much that she did not try and change the way he wanted to raise his sons. It's either one of those two. And that's one more reason why I tend to fall on this whole, they married this woman, they married that woman in the Bible, is about a culture difference. Having different values, different morals, a totally opposite way of looking at the world. His wife doesn't seem to have that, even though she should. She should have it. But some reason, through God's blessing, Joseph either is able to show her that his way is the right way, or at least this is the way you're going to raise my sons. Big tangent, I know, but I'm serious. There's so much teachings out there about the bloodlines, and I listen to them all the time. They're very fascinating and interesting, and they wouldn't mention the bloodlines if they were important. But I tend to think that too often people realize that who you're related to and can trace yourself back to is not relevant anymore. Not relevant to whether or not you're saved. But the lesson is to make sure when you find a partner, it's someone who has the same values as you do. Alright, let's finish this up. Verse 28. And he sent Judah before him unto Joseph, to direct his face unto Goshen. And they came into the land of Goshen, and Joseph made ready his chariot, and went up to meet Israel his father, to Goshen, and presented himself unto him. And he fell on his neck, and wept on his neck a good while. And Israel said unto Joseph, Now let me die, since I have seen thy face, because thou art yet alive. And Joseph said unto his brethren, and unto his father's house, I will go up, and shew Pharaoh, and say unto him, My brethren and my father's house, which were in the land of Canaan, are come unto me, and the men are shepherds, for their trade hath been to feed cattle, and they have brought their flocks and their herds, and all that they have. And it shall come to pass, when Pharaoh shall call you, and they shall say, What is your occupation? That ye shall say, Thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from our youth, even until now, both we and also our fathers, that ye may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. Okay, this is what I mentioned in the beginning. Now, let's go back. It's a beautiful scene. Joseph sees his father again, and for a long while, it says, he falls on his neck and weeps. He's weeping on his shoulder. He hasn't seen his father. He didn't know if he'd ever see his father. He didn't even know if his father was still alive. His father thought he was dead. What a moment. And Jacob's had a few of these. Like, remember the way that Esau falls on his neck and they weep together after Esau had threatened to kill his twin brother. He ran away to Laban and then comes back years later with family, and they realize fall on each other and cry. So Jacob's had some moments like this in his life. Some of those really tear-jerking moments. And then we get into, basically, here, you're going to stay in the land of Goshen. That's, again, this is historically proven. This is where the pasture lands were. But it says, every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. Basically, think of it as a caste system. The Egyptians see this type of work as beneath them. This is beneath us. So they don't want them to live within. It's like the Roman Empire. There's parts of the Roman Empire you can live and do whatever you want, but inside Rome, we can't have you inside of Rome itself. And that's the way this is. Like, we're not going to put you in Egypt proper. Goshen, which is a place under our control where there's good pasture land and everything, and it's fertile, even in this famine, it's doing okay. We'll put you over there. Not with us, though. Again, they don't like what Abraham did to him last time. They respect and fear his God, but he brought some plagues. They don't trust him totally. Joseph has earned the respect of Pharaoh, but he's also caused a few, issues with people so far that are higher up in Egyptian culture. And, well, they're dirty. Like, you're raising livestock. To the Egyptians, you're not as clean. And again, the work is beneath Egyptians themselves. So we don't want to see you doing this work. We don't want to be around you doing this work. It's an abomination. Like, it would just be a cultural, taboo thing. Like, how dare you, for the Jewish people, the Hebrews, to live in Egypt proper and be raising livestock. Because that's again, it's disgusting to them. It's an abomination. So I guess it's not necessarily a hatred of the Hebrews. I mean, it's not a good thing either. It's just more of a, you're beneath us. It's racism is what it is. It's, a lot of racism is not hating another culture or hating another people's, but the racism is seeing your race or your race is racism as superior to another race. And that's obviously what's going on here. It goes on throughout cultures forever. The Egyptians were above these shepherds. They're above doing that. They're above this type of work, this type of living. Yeah, they will buy and sell with these people, whatever, but that's, we are above that. An abomination. All right, so this is Genesis 46. We are almost done with Genesis. What a time to be alive. All right. Next is Genesis 47, and that's where Joseph is just talks about him being governor, and he gets Jacob's blessing, and then yeah, we'll get into it. Hope everyone has a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or good night. God bless.